Welcome back to Symposium of Wild Hearts. I am here with Lydia Rose. She is a beautiful, talented healer. She's a maker. She's an intuitive herbalist, which I love that title. She's a sexual health creator, and she has a line called Wild and Vibrant. They are herbal sexual self-care products for wild and vibrant sexual ecology and radical healing. I love all those words so much. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yay. Okay, so one thing I've been doing at the beginning of these sessions are just giving people a moment to check in with what's going on with them. One of the big reasons I wanted to create the Symposium of Wild Hearts was to give people a chance to really tune into what's true for them, take time away from the normal hustle and bustle of life and really tune into what's happening for them. And so I'd like to just do a quick check-in. So for those who are listening or watching, let's just flutter our eyes closed to the best of your ability. And just take a deep breath and sigh it out. Yeah. And just let yourself arrive at this place right now. With whatever's going on in your mind and in your heart and in your body. Just cultivating compassion and being curious. Let's just check in, and maybe you're holding some tension in your jaw. Just loosen it up. Send some breath that way. So often we hold tension in our shoulders or our bellies, just putting a hand and welcoming in softness, welcoming in receptivity, welcoming in juiciness. Just using your breath to send energy to any place that feels, maybe there's tension you're holding, maybe there's feelings that are up for you, whatever it is, just sending love. Just picturing a white or golden light just radiating from your heart center, from your yoni. Just knowing that your energy is magnetic and you can shift it at any moment just by becoming inward. And so if you need more space here, you want to scan your body more, just send yourself love more, just continue to do that. But for the rest of us, we're going to take 2 deep belly breaths together and sigh it out again. So just a deep breath in. Sigh it out. Let's do one more together. Deep breath in. And sigh it out. And when you're ready, just fluttering your eyes open and rejoining us here and now. All right. Let's get into it. So you will be able to find Lydia's bio. It's below this video, but instead of reading that, I'm going to do this fun little game I've been doing. It's yet to have a name. It's I kind of got the idea from Jimmy Fallon. He does this game called Think Fast. And so it's just like that. So it's really quick. It's just, what's the word I'm looking for? So I ask a question and you immediately answer it. Don't take time to think about it. Just the first thing. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Just going to get some of the energy moving. So question 1. It's a fill in the blank. Women just wanna blank. Okay, question 2. Why do birds sing?
Because they do.
Question 3. Why are you so great?
I love myself.
I like it. Question 4. What's your favorite sexual self-care practice?
Pussy breathing.
I like it. We're gonna do some of that later. What's the best song for love making?
I think your partner's voice, your heavy breathing, and or anything that makes your heart quick, like anything that you move your body to.
I like it.
Instantly, like if you start moving, then you're moving.
What's another word for wild?
Passionate.
Describe an orgasm.
An orgasm is a state of being. An orgasm is a place of desire, of being liquid with your desires, of living in orgasm, meaning fully expanded, fully connected to all your systems. Orgasm is nourishment. It's a place where you can live and sit in that feels aligned with you, and has nothing to do with climax necessarily, or feeling like you are, explode. It has nothing to do with the explosive energy that lots of people talk about in terms of orgasm. It can just be a feeling of opening and nourishment, and that's sitting deep in your desire and living from that place. That's how it feels.
I love that state of being. We'll have to come back to that in our conversation. That's huge.
Okay.
Okay, I asked you that one. Why are you so relieved?
I'm relieved to be alive. I'm relieved to be here.
I like it. Why was sex created?
Sex is created to keep us alive as well. It's a multi-level expansion system. It's our greatest tool of healing, and it's also, a way that we continue on the species. It's a primal force that pulls us inside.
I love it. This is the last question. How does your heart feel right now?
Oh, my heart is expanding. I have a new baby, and it feels a lot of times, really vulnerable and raw. And so I feel it often expanding really big and then kind of pulling back in. Just like a breath, like your lungs would, there's expansion and contraction so that you can get bigger. And so I think I have a lot of that going on right now, where it's like, ooh, it gets so big and it feels so big. And then there's almost the natural, contraction. And the key is to kind of feel it and not judge it. And then go back with the expansion when it comes again, ride it.
I love that. Thank you for playing the little question game with me.
You're welcome. That's fun. I love stuff like that.
Wow. I feel like there's so many things I want to touch on from what you said, and we'll come back to some of those. But I thought a great place to start would actually be, we didn't talk about this, but the shadow of sexuality. So I was doing some research this morning about you, and was looking at some of the reasons why you've created what you have. And I was reading that you had some issues with infertility, trauma, vaginal numbness, and sometimes the opening and our call to remember comes through pain. So can we start there with the shadow, maybe sharing some of your story, and then we'll get to the light, obviously, the birth, the juiciness, this and I already feel this with you, is like being in this in between world. It's a very soft, receptive place that we're already in. So I would love to talk about that shadow first.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, without sounding cliche, I feel that I've been to the depths of hell with that shadow. I feel like we all have our own things that we're working through in shadow. You can't talk about sex without really having shadow. So that being said, I can definitely say that I feel that as a Scorpio as well, I've had a lot of things centered and pushed down into that area of my body. And the primary story of a lot of my life was feeling like I could heal people sexually. I loved people from a very young age. I just felt like I could kiss everyone. I wanted to kiss everyone. I remember, feeling pleasure in my pussy and my vulva at a young age from looking at like a flower. I often took bike rides and would pray to the moon, and I felt just this opening. And I also felt like I had, I also was dealing with some abuses in my life of my sexuality. I didn't feel expressed. I didn't feel that there was an opening as I grew into puberty. It was very confusing for me. I felt like I could look at men and women and kind of want to heal them sexually, want to cuddle with them, want to be with them. I was always in trouble for, even first, second grade for slipping out of line and kissing people. So that's kind of like my child sexuality. And I felt that there was a block in blossoming. And when you kind of look at the 5 stages of human sexuality, and this is detailed a lot in the book Sex at Dawn and other books too that deal with anatomy of our evolution as sexual beings. I feel like, you know, we have these playful stages, and then we have these initiation stages, and there's so many woundings in the initiations and the playful stages, and I kind of feel like maybe I'm touching on that piece right now. And as I came into my young adulthood, I had a lot of body shame. I really was disconnected from my body, and at the same time I had the opposite. I had this lived self that was enjoying sex with people that I was dating. I was feeling very free with men and women. I danced a lot, and my shadow of that was that I felt awful about it. I felt awful about my body. I dealt with lots of different cutting and eating disorders and things that I didn't understand. I always felt I was so much, that I was too much, you know, just this witchiness that I didn't know how to hone in. And as a result, I was really heavily medicated. I had a suicide attempt, and when I was very young, was very depressed, and I just kept on having more medicines and all this just hard stuff. And my first OB appointment, I didn't really have a regular period, and was told I was infertile. So I was on different drugs for that for a long time, and at one point, just shut down my sexuality. And I went through these kind of stages of feeling really, really open and really, really expressed, and then really, really, really closed down. And I didn't know how to weave the two. I didn't have a tool of integration to really pull those selves in. And
let's pause right there, because I'd love to just re-highlight some of the things that you said. And it's so amazing, because I find the more people I talk to that you know, there's both of these stories that exist, and we'll get back to that integration point because I feel it's so important. But just looking back on your life as a child, before some of this was stomped out of you, which often happens, you know, well-meaning people in our lives who they think they're protecting us, but as a child you were feeling that you could heal people through this energy because you were feeling it so strongly there. Do you know what I mean? Just hearing that like brings me back to my childhood and thinking about very magical states that I found myself in, just knowing things, but I had no framework for it. I had no words for it at the time. And so I kind of put it away as well. I suppressed it for a long time. So it's so interesting that you said that you had this lived experience as well. I loved those words, this lived experience of sexuality and sensuality and connecting with people and feeling that energy. And also simultaneously this, you know, body shaming and these, you know, people telling you that you're infertile because your cycle was irregular. I just wanted to highlight that all those things can live simultaneously, and then bring it back to what you were saying about this integration point. When did it start to integrate, and when did things start to really shift for you into merging that light and that dark?
I feel like as a Scorpio, I've just had these cycles, right? Of like dying and then reborn, reborn, dying, reborn, dying, reborn. So like I lived it. I had a suicide attempt in my early 20s, was reborn, and really went into, I think, relationship with people that weren't the healthiest, but they taught me a lot. And then from there, I had a total body breakdown and died again. And I was really reborn through nourishment. I did this slow self-care process. I was losing teeth and hair, and I just did like tons of kundalini, and I found like all the right people. I was drinking tons of broth and juicing every day. I went on a more of a diet to reclaim my body. I was doing all these baths, and I took a little break from sexuality then. And then I kind of was reborn from that, met my now husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, felt very connected to him, but also I was in like a child state, being reborn, felt very connected to my heart and to my sex, but then had this drive to become more self-realized. I went to California. I started an incredible business there in doing food healing, and then I learned Ayurvedic massage and more Western herbalism, and it just kind of evolved. And then I had a sexual assault there. I was drugged, and my life like fell into a million pieces. And as I was there, I also was experiencing this numbness. So I didn't date anybody there. And it was another period of time where I was like going through like how to be connected to my sexuality, to this integrate this power that I always felt that I had, but that I couldn't get over the shame of it. And the shame of it just like shut me down. Then I had that experience. The thing that really saved me in that experience was an incredible spider. And from that experience, I went to Hawaii. I walked the earth in Hawaii for around 9 months and really was just like the walking wound. Could not feel my pussy. I lost like 100 pounds. I went mute. I didn't talk to people. And all I talked to were the plants. Wow. And I spun in the ocean and I just asked the earth to really give me my womb back, my vagina back, the power to love again. And from there, I came back to Minnesota to visit my grandmother and really had this pull to be with as many people as possible and kind of go down the rabbit hole of like, will my pussy feel anything ever again? And I kind of was at a point, another dying place where I was like, will I die and be reborn? And I was with people and I was trying to reclaim my sexuality. It just was so disjointed. But the thing that was inside me was my old lover, who is now my husband. And I kept feeling like I wanted to meet up with him, wanted to share and see if I could feel anything with him. And when I met up with him, I was able to just feel this massive opening in my heart and in my pussy. Like I felt everything connect again. And that was before I like touched him. I just saw him and I remembered like who I was. And for whatever reason, that's part of my story. And then we like met up and we got pregnant like 10 days later. I had my period for the first time in like 3 years. I hadn't had sex and felt it for over 3 years as well. So there's just so much in my story of these like rebirth cycles where I'm coming up and out of it in a new place. And my new place this past time was to be more reborn with my ability to provide as a mother, to get pregnant, to reclaim my body and my sexuality that way, and to have a partnership with this man that I always loved. And I think I really uncovered this feeling of feeling like I never deserved the love or the nourishment that a relationship could give you. So it's just been these cycles. And I think the integration is always like the resting place after the breaking open and the reborn. And the integration comes when you're in that like restful new place.
That's so true. Or were you able to tie together any pattern of thought or old beliefs that led to the numbness? Because there's people who are watching who, and also just like, holy goodness, you can speak to so many different things because you've been through them. It's no accident that you're a sexual health, like that this is your work, because you've been through so many of these cycles and you've come out of them. You're a mother of 2 now, and people said that you wouldn't be able to get pregnant. You, like you said, you worked through the numbness and you got your sexuality back. Are you able to tie any of these things together? Not that everyone's story is going to be the same, but I'd love for people who are listening who may be going through something with their sexual health to be able to take their power back and know that healing is available for them.
I feel like I was passionate about my desire. So even when I felt I had no desire, I sat in that and accepted it. There were days and months on Hawaii when I sat and looked at the ocean and I was ridiculed by the people there that I was staying with. And sometimes I would sing to stay in farms, but I sat with the no feeling and the numbness and I let it ride and wave over me until I had a new desire. And I had a teacher once who told me it's okay to go down the rabbit hole of your desire, meaning that there's shadow there. There's a rich experience there that can be terrifying for so many. But I truly think that that I've done bigger work so that I can reflect it back for people who are in other spaces when all that's needed is to just grab a hold of that next yes. So whatever the lighter feeling is in your body of the want, and it doesn't always feel lighter. Sometimes it feels strange to want something. I feel like I teach that people to go with that. I teach that. That's why I feel pussy breathing is really important to me. It connects me, my pussy, and my heart. And then also I move from a place of what's the next yes for me? What feels good to me? And the pussy, voice, the voice of my pussy energy inside of me, really leads me into places that the mind doesn't really understand. And I think I kept saying yes to that as an answer to your question. So if it means go over there and touch that piece of grass right now, go roll down that hill, go tell that person you love them, go touch, you know, that piece of clothing right now, write that down right now, go make yourself whatever it is that you're interested in eating right now. Like if I had a pop up after of listening to my pussy, even if it felt really strange, I think I listened. And I think I would recommend that for everyone. I love to teach that to everyone, that if you can start to listen and hear the voice of that different kind of intuition from your pussy, then, and you just keep following it, that it builds. The yeses build, the desire builds, that orgasm builds, and suddenly you have a new life. And so it doesn't need to happen, you know, all at once. And just these, and you can't do it wrong. So if you start saying no, you start hearing like, go buy that thing, I want that thing, and that's the voice of the pussy, and you can't buy it, it doesn't mean that, you know, you're starting from square one, because what's so beautiful about the human system is that we are constantly making new desires, and we're constantly making beautiful crystallized experiences inside of ourselves that are begging for like just a little opening. And I think the openings are exquisite, and they give us an energy back. So I feel a lot of energy back to keep going once I say yes. It doesn't really mean much. Like if I told you today that I really, really wanted to, you know, and it's often oils for me. Like I really wanted to rub this oil on my body for a long time, because that's a place where I've sat in my nourishment. But for other people, it's weird stuff. It's like, oh, I wanted to go, you know, I wanted to go to this festival. So I did. I wanted to buy these, like, I don't know, Cheetos, something that they never eat. And they did. Like, that's yes. Then that's the yes. You just keep following it. You don't know where it's going to go.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So I'm in the process of learning what that voice is to me, how my yoni speaks, how my pussy speaks. For those who are watching who may be like, yes, and they totally get it, right on. But there may be some people who are like, well, I don't know what that voice is like. What is that voice of desire like? And I'd love for us in this part of the conversation to really touch on this like idea of embodying the yes, or even embodying the no. Like, what does it mean? What does the energy feel like? What can you speak to for people who are trying to learn how to listen to this sacred life force that lives inside of us?
I feel the most incredible piece of it is, I'll touch on it again, is number one, that you absolutely can't do it wrong. So I feel the voice of the pussy, the voice of your, it's a really essential embodiment, or your original essence. It's your original sexual essence that's speaking to you. And it speaks to you in, like I said, a way that is a little bit tricky if you aren't like listening for it. And I feel it's much different than like the up here intuition of like, oh, that's coming. I feel like when I get an intuitive hit, I'm like, oh, this is coming. Someone's calling me. I should go there. It's a lot different than this rich desire feeling. And I would say that it's not loud. I don't think it's loud over the voice of our thoughts. I think that the reason that I love to do pussy breathing or breast massage, the reason that I was called to create my products is for listening. The Cosmic Egg is another product that I think is really helpful for listening. And listening and the building of that sensual embodiment lets a little bit of these kind of desire voices in. And like I said, the voice is really soft, and it's not going to be that you can do it wrong. It's not going to be like if the voice today is like, go sit in that rocking chair and you don't know why, and go rock. It can be silly, like go roll down that hill, but it can also just feel like it's guiding you. And it's a different guidance system than we're taught to deal with first, and it doesn't always make sense. So a lot of times I think what shows up for women is like, well, I heard that I wanted to like go talk to that guy and I didn't. And it's like, because, you know, he wasn't my type or something. He probably wasn't. But like the voice was saying, go talk to that person. Or maybe it's not a person that they're interested in. Maybe it's a coworker that they want to have a conversation with, and the pussy's guiding them, like, go talk to that person. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like, there's this richness. There's a call to like
Mm-hmm.
connect in. And I think that's the best way to describe it. And it comes in slow and it comes in soft. And if you have even just a few, like 30 seconds for me, especially for breast massage or pussy breathing, then the rest of the day I'm building on like listening to just a few yeses. And the few yeses were like, adorn me with some oil and give me some space to be recognized, meaning give my genitalia. I only have a pussy, and so I'm giving her space to breathe and to connect in with her. And then she can be my guidance. Like, she can be my system all day long that I'm listening to. And I have a way now that, you know, if I'm doing meditation and I can hear the witness and the observer and all the people, I can invite them all into my heart. So then I have the voice of the pussy in my heart too. I have the voice of, you know, the witness, the observer, and I can be choiceful with who I listen to as well. So it's really fun to invite her up into the throne and say, you know,
I love that.
Yeah, this is the kingdom. And
I love that. I love that. Yeah, so the way that is resonating with me, and the way, and I get that it'll be different for everyone, but it is sort of like when you said the thing about the intuitive hit and how that comes in and how that feels, I was like, okay, got it. So now I know that for me, when my pussy's talking, it's this very earthy energy. It does feel like it's coming up through the body instead of this way. And that really helped me to know, like, when she is talking. And so lately I've gotten that voice too, like, go talk to that person. And it doesn't even have to be someone I'm interested in, but my pussy's guiding me to be like lighthearted and flirtatious and just extend my energy out and just love people, like, regardless. So that was a really helpful pointer for me to be able to know how she speaks to me. I think what might be good is if you lead us into the pussy breathing, and then I'll probably have a ton of questions after that other people may have as well. So if you feel comfortable going there now, we'll continue talking about all of this juiciness.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. All right. So for pussy breathing, and if you are a man, this can also be testicle breathing. If you are non-binary or identifying in any other way, this can be your lower root breathing. You can name it genital breathing. You can name it, I like to name it root breathing a lot. If you don't want to put the word genital on it. It's empowering for me to say pussy breathing, and so I'm going to say that today. But obviously, if you do identify as a woman or have a female body and you use a different word, please feel free to put that in there. Because if you love vagina or yoni or all those things, those are all, this is a really positive area is what I'm trying to say. So, and it has a lot of magic no matter what gender system you identify with or what body you are in. There's just a lot there. So I'm going to just invite everyone to flutter their eyes closed and just really take a few breaths in and out. No way, no shape or form, whatever can get you dropped in. And in your own consciousness, just take a few moments to think about anything that you are ready to let go of. You could have it be about your sexual conditioning, or you could just have it be that you are going to breathe and listen for what comes up. But there's always a space for an intention. So continue breathing naturally, normally. And then in whatever comfortable position you're in, just gently begin to squeeze and release your pelvic floor. You can focus on the pelvic floor and allow your perineum, your urethra, just squeezing and releasing. Just really feeling the energy of that root, the area. Squeezing and releasing. We'll just now add a gentle breath. So all pussy breathing is done through the mouth. So you're going to inhale Exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the mouth. Exhale through the mouth. And you'll just add on top of that some of that squeezing of the pelvic floor on the inhale, and then releasing of the pelvic floor on the exhale. At your own natural pace, continuing with the mouth open. It can feel a little strange, just breathe through it. And then continuing on, inhaling, exhaling, releasing, inhaling up on the pelvic floor, exhaling the pelvic floor. And then now we'll add a squeeze and release. So just squeezing, 2, 3, 4, releasing, 2, 3, 4. Squeeze and inhale through the mouth, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, release through the mouth, 2, 3, 4. Now releasing the counting, releasing the squeezing and relaxing, keeping the eyes closed, and then placing and feeling free to place a hand over your genital area to connect into your space. We're going to breathe in and out of our mouth. And it's as if our vagina was breathing. Very full, connected breath. Cannot do this wrong. Invite yourself to inhale, fill up the entire pelvic area with air. Open mouth. Exhale. Release the entire pelvic area. Inhale. Exhale. And the most incredible piece of this, as you're inhaling through the mouth and exhaling hand over your pussy, is you're breathing as if your pussy and your vagina was breathing with you, as if it was a second mouth. So as you're opening your mouth, inhaling, your pussy is also inhaling with you. Your pussy is inhaling oxygen. Your pussy is inhaling new energy. And then exhaling, your pussy is exhaling with you. Your mouth and your vagina are becoming intimately connected in a new orbit. And you continue at your own pace with the deepest, fullest breath you can do in and out of your mouth. Inhaling, exhale, and as connected as you can be between the inhale and the exhale. Again, this is a layered process. You can't do it wrong. Coming to it with curiosity, inhaling. And for the last minute or two, you release sound on the exhale. So as you're inhaling, feeling your hand over your pussy, open mouth. Exhale. Pulling the energy down. Inhale. Feeling your vagina take in air with your mouth as if it's breathing. And then exhaling out any sound you need to at all. Inhale. Exhale. Anything at all, any sound at all. And the more you do this, the more you can feel the sound of your felt sense. Felt sense being the energy running through your body at all times of emotion. And you're feeling and sounding the sensation of your pussy through this incredible orbit, incredible visualization. If you're at home and you're doing this on the release, you could feel free to shake. If you're relying on your back, it's very easy to kind of move your hips and shake on the exhales, continuing to keep your hand over if that serves you. And coming into the last piece, feel at home. Be in your pussy. Feel in a comfortable space. Come home to your body. Whatever energy you've released, feel you've made new space for listening. And bringing the consciousness of your pussy into your whole body. Bringing that breath of the pussy, the ability to link mouth and vagina. Bring that and grow it, grow it, grow it until it's living bigger in your body. And right before we flutter our eyes open, just feel that. Taste whatever sweetness can come from that. Feel whatever feeling you want and need to have. If there's an intention, or if there's a way that you'd like to close out the session. I often just kind of touch my whole body centrally to close out the energy. You could do something beautiful like dance, cuddle yourself. You could also just take a moment to do some more regular nose breathing and come back into your body. And then as you flutter your eyes open, really feeling that you have created a living home for the consciousness of your pussy and her breath in your body. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. I'm really nearly moved to tears, because what was really coming up for me was permission to feel pleasure, which I talk about a lot, but just even doing when we were just pulsing, I was like, wow, this feels good. Should I be doing this? This feels good. And there's still a part of me that hasn't owned that, totally owned that feeling pleasure is like our birthright. That's what I kept feeling, was just like, this is for you. There's nothing wrong with feeling good in your body. There's nothing wrong with that. So, and I just feel like so much space has been created. So thank you for walking us through that beautiful, beautiful practice.
You're welcome. It's so fun and it can be so deep, and I can do magic around it where I'm creating intention before I breathe, or I can do it with two crying babies and do it for 30 seconds when I go to the bathroom.
How do I
connect? How do I just connect in so that I'm making sure that I'm feeling that? And I really hear you about that pleasure, as our birthright. I think that's a lot of a great topic that many people talk about. And it's true. I often talk about it as riding your erotic blueprint, just riding that wave, riding whatever that original essence is inside of you for truth, beauty, and freedom. I really connect that in to the sexuality and the pleasure, and they have all a space. They're all a part of orgasm. They're all a part of just this living open. Whereas, our society has really made it be this sex thing. And there is a sex thing, but the sex thing is so much bigger. It's a sensual embodiment that feels spacious. So thank you for coming on that journey. And I feel like that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what I teach. I do a lot of breath work, because really opening the belly and the lower genital, breathing, all that kind of stuff is really nourishing and grounding. You can really open your bones that way and really get into your deep desires that way. It can also just reconnect you, like I said, to that sense of home inside you.
I love it, because I feel so soft and nourished and very receptive. And so something you said just sparked something in me, because when I do my own sacred sexual self-pleasure, a lot of it is centered around creating intentions and manifestation. And sometimes it's just sheerly pleasure, what feels good. But I would love for you to speak a little, if you can, on just the process of doing this work while setting an intention, or about bringing in a goal. So right now, if I just had time, I would sit, and because I am so receptive, I would sit and I would imagine desired states. I really want to create a healing center here. So I would just like soar into the feeling of it, because now there's so many less like nothing's going to block me right now and be like, no, you can't, or think about this thing, because I'm so open and receptive. But how do you work your intuitive magic when you're doing sexual self-care?
I feel if I'm really like in the high magic moment of it, I get all into it. So for me, especially right now I'm postpartum, so it's a little different. So I'm not going internal, but for most of the sexual self-care practices that I've been doing in sex magic, it feels like I gather my things. So for me, that's usually like a candle and maybe a rock from the earth, and I gather those kind of little things around me. I may or may not have a crystal wand that I use. I feel that's really important to me. I also use a wood wand. I love that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I love that.
That's a thing.
It feels really good. Just to feel I feel like I'm often filling up with that, but I set an intention before I lay down. So it's very clear that I set an intention for what I want. If I'm in a big kind of sex magic place, I'll definitely get clear. What is it that I want? And if I'm doing a practice with my husband, we get clear. Like we speak aloud to ourselves. We do practices where we release fear. And if I'm doing a practice where I'm just by myself, I'll say to myself, I'm allowing fear to be released in this practice with no judgment. So I know fear will come up as I start to explore my pussy, especially if I'm doing wand work. And if it starts to come up, then I welcome it too. I'm like, oh, wow, you're here. Like your fear. Okay. Wow. Yeah, I hear you. And I am also in love with this idea of having a new house, or, creating my magic business, or whatever it is that people are really into, or, coming into more health with my body, calling in a partner, all these big things that people work with when they're doing sexual magic. And it can run the spectrum, it can be anything and everything. And I feel really open about sex magic, because I feel like it's really gorgeous to just want something and then feel okay with your desire. And I feel it takes a lot to get through that, even on a small level. We're living in a capitalist society, and there's so much judgment around wanting and needing. And I feel like when you've broken through some of the sexual shame barriers, it feels really good to just want some things. It feels really good. Some wants are really heart-based and rich, and other ones are like, I want to, feel safe financially. I want to feel good about, what I purchase. I want to feel, I want this. I want this for my life. And there's nothing wrong with wanting. It's, I think, capitalism that makes it kind of bad or icky or shame or greedy. And so I think I just wanted to put that over it. But then I think as I do the wand work or the pussy breathing, I'm listening. Pieces of my body mind show up. I welcome them. I release them. I'm breathing. If I feel excited, like I want to have an orgasm, I will definitely follow that energy. And it's really just following the energy wherever it leads you. And then if I decide that I want to have orgasm, a lot of times it's feeling what it felt like to have what I want, what it feels like, what it smells like, touches, like the whole senses reality around me. What does that feel like to have what I want as I am bringing myself to this orgasm or climax? And I think that that's the most powerful piece. And I often will try to recommit to that in the whole pleasure session. If I give myself 30 minutes, I'm exploring, things come up, I breathe through them, I release, I've set the intention in the beginning, I've got my talismans around me that really offer me protection if anything too scary or rich comes up that I feel like I need to hold on to. And then if I decide to move into pleasure and I follow the sensual, ride the sensual waves, and I decide to bring myself to an orgasm, I will imagine and feel what I see around me, what I'm wearing, what it looks like to have what I want. And then as I am having my climax, I will hold that in my mind, body, spirit, mouth. If I'm imagining what it tastes like to have it, I'm and trying to embody it as much as I can. I can't do it perfectly, but and that's, I think, for me, like the biggest intention-based sex magic practice that I have, and it feels really good. Then often if I've written something, I'll bury it, and I'll often do that. My husband and
I
I do
love those.
ritual together.
Oh,
We'll,
I want to talk about that a little too.
yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, I loved what you said in the beginning about the orgasm being more of an energetic space. I started to immediately resonate with that idea because there's so much pressure around it. So this is like totally personal, but I've been trying to work on really using my breath because I think a lot of people like hold their breath when they'd like to move into orgasm, and it's like actually it's a interesting process undoing that and using your breath like in an outward motion instead of like holding it. Do you have any tips on that?
Yes, I think absolutely. As you're coming to more understanding of your patterns around
Yeah.
orgasm, many of us are taught, especially if we're learning to masturbate or self-pleasure in a, like a locked room or something where somebody could come
Uh-huh.
in at any time, to kind of
Yeah.
push and tense into our orgasm. We have
Yeah.
habitual breath patterns around that, the way we
Yeah.
learn to self-pleasure. And for me, what I love about kind of knowing that about myself is I can feel when I'm going into like an older pattern. There's no judgment if I want to have like a sneezy. It feels like a sneezy. Like if I have that old,
Yeah.
like kind of, oh, it's a body orgasm. Like it's just a sneeze.
Mhm. Mhm.
If I want to do that, then I can. But it feels like I'm like maybe like 13 or 14 years old when I'm doing that. Like, oh yeah, that's the way you learn. But in truth, both men and women, from what I really have worked with, and all different types of folks, have a real need to relax into pleasure. So this is
Yeah.
going to especially be true for men. Um, but we're really wired. Actually, we're wired in different ways, but we have a really core wiring that's very, very real, and that is that we actually really open up in pleasure, like in this relaxation in the pleasure. Like if we can breathe into the tension as we're having it, as we're feeling pleasure, you can open up more. And
Yeah.
there are lots of different practices to do that. But even just as you're feeling the energy rise when you're starting to build the pleasure in your body, if you're feeling like you want to tense down and go fast, or if you're feeling like you're going to a habitual place, it's really awesome to take a deep breath as you're pleasuring. So taking
Yeah.
a deep breath, like as if you were in a yoga class, and breathing into your body, breathing into your pussy or your penis at that moment is actually really centering. And that's something that I feel like has brought a new level of lovemaking and fucking into my husband and I's life as well. Like if we're both, okay, we're like in our pattern, we love this way, we do it this way, it's so fun, but it's pretty reliable. Let's take a deep breath together and
Yeah.
like, what are we gonna feel? Usually
Mm.
we re-oxygenate, feel like tingly. We breathe together. We like if we're, if he's on top of me, our hearts are together. So suddenly you've got like a vibration and a sound thing going on. And there's lots of ways to really open up and pull that pleasure into your limbs and into your body. And it's, again, all an experiment. So it feels
Yeah.
so good to just experiment with these ways that, I feel like used to be innate
Yeah.
to us, and that we're like relearning, both in all genders, relearning how to pull that pleasure in. So I'm hoping I'm answering your question, but that's really,
No, you are. You definitely are. Like being curious about what happens when you use your breath instead of like going into like a contraction is like what I'm taking away, and also what I've been practicing. So no, it totally made sense. And I'd love to just touch a little bit on, because you've spoken a lot about, and I look forward to being in a relationship where we have these conversations about sexual pleasure, and it seems like you and your partner are very open to that, and because of that you have an amazing sex life, even with like you said, sometimes going into old routines, you'll just like do one thing, you'll breathe together and see how that changes the energy. What can you speak to for people who are in partnerships that want to keep things creative and but just being sexually curious about each other after you've been together for a long time?
yeah, I feel like planning a night for sex is the best thing ever. So I always recommend that if you're in a long-term partnership. Planning a night where you're totally worshiping and devoted to each other. Like I've shared this before on my Instagram, and I share this in classes, but like my husband and I have our regular dates where we'll like, yeah, let's go out to eat, and maybe it'll be the posh date, maybe it'll be a movie date, maybe whatever it is. Those are regular dates. Then we have dates where we do ritual and we do sex, and they're not always like the same. Like some days we'll, like the solstice, we'll have a ritual day where we'll just do some ritual together, and other days we'll have sex magic dates, and other nights we'll have like nights where we just have sex. But the most important thing is we're making a space to explore sexual connection together. And when we have that night planned out, literally nothing can go wrong because even if we got in a fight, like we made the sex date night for this connection, for exploring what's up between the two of us. And instead of that seeping into our life in other ways, we've made the space for it. And then it's like, we often do connecting work before we ever go into any sort of touch or pleasure, unless we're just both like really turned on. We're like, I miss you. You know, we have a family. So we're also doing parent stuff all the time, which can take away from partner life sometimes, or can feel like it. So I think that that's my biggest entry point, and it seems to really help people. And then I also have we go through a little ritual before we would do anything. So whatever we would decide to do that night, if we were going to do some higher magic and maybe do some worshiping of each other, my husband's just kind of down. Like he's a free man, and he's also really pretty traditional. He also grew up with a lot of shaming from a religious background. So he's broken through a lot of his own barriers in that way. And there's still more to go, but he's kind of down. Like it's exciting for him that I'm like, you know, do you want to try this like penis worship? Do you want to touch my pussy for a little bit? For him, that's exciting. And
for me, that's like, who isn't that exciting for?
Super exciting. And we have a lot of fun with it. And I think that I've spoken with a lot of women and men that are ready for that. And the thing that keeps it grounded is planning the time for it, and then having an entry point in terms of a ritual, like we always do, like a fear, love, and desire ritual that we do, which is where we show up and we talk to each other, kind of what's up with our fear, what's up with our desire, and then we remind each other why we love each other. And that's gorgeous. That's a teaching from Layla Martin, my teacher. And so I learned that from her, and it's, I think, the container for whatever we do, because we get emotionally connected. I get to hear and remember why he loves me so much, but I also kind of just get to like spew and be like, I'm afraid of this right now. I'm afraid we're not doing this enough, and I'm afraid about this. And he gets to listen. He gets to lay out all his fears. And then that stuff doesn't come into the sex. So that can often in a long-term partnership be what's keeping you from feeling that you want. It's like, oh, we have to do this, and I'm afraid if we don't do this, we don't do that, and I don't feel like you love me, and I want this. And you know, there's a space for it. We can clear out the fear, get into the desire, what is we want, and then remind each other, like, we really love each other. This is what we want from each other.
I love it. I love it. So I have a question that I've been asking everyone that's the same, but I'd love to just sort of like do a recap. And there's like a question that I have, but I'd love for you to, and it's sort of similar to the game we did in the beginning. So maybe just like a sentence. So if someone's watching, no matter how you identify, what would you say in a few sentences for them is really important for the reclaiming of this energy, for the integration of this energy?
Yeah, Nash, I'm feeling the reclaiming of this energy. What's really important is to show up for your own body. To take a moment, even if it's 5 to 10 seconds, to breathe into your body, and to realize you have a sexual and sensual essence, an original essence that is always going to be there for you. So the more you show up for it, the more it can come out and feel free to show itself. And there's lots of uncovering that can come up for that, but I really feel held that this energy is me. There's an energy of me, my sensual essence, my sensual embodiment that I was born with, and it's gorgeous, and it shows up for me. And the more I give it time, I let it out piece by piece, say hello, it keeps showing up for me. And so I think I want to encourage people, if they're ready and willing to explore that it doesn't require a lot of energy. In terms of money, it doesn't require a lot of energy. You don't have to be investing in tons of supplies or things like that, that it can really just be a simple breath, uncovering and remembering who you are, making space to remember who you are. And there's so many techniques to do that, but in reality, you have a sensual truth that is yours, that no one can ever take away, no matter what you've been through. And so many folks have been through so much. So I love that it can be there, no matter what story has happened.
I love that. And I actually just thought of a little online course that we could do together, which would be letting people create their sexual manifesto. And I think I'm going to go and do some writing on that after this, because I feel so much more clear about certain things. And I love that what you said, because it just feels like more and more I'm realizing that everything wants to have a relationship with you. And the more that you show up for the energetic presence of your yoni, the energetic presence, the actual physical presence of a person, like everyone's just yearning to be in relationship. Everything is just yearning to be met and to be seen. And so thinking about that original sexual essence that's mine and it's me, it's just like, it gives me chills and I love it. Thank you.
It gives me chills thinking about yours and everyone's. It's just so fucking beautiful. It's so gorgeous. And it's our, you talked about it being our birthright. It is. It's our birthright. It's so beautiful. And, I'm have this newborn and I'm seeing their essence, and there is a sensual essence to being a human. And we're in such a internal and intersexual revolution time. And I love that manifesto piece. I'd be so on board to really go through that. And I just love that juice that you bring to it, because that juice is the orgasm. That juice is it, that's it.
I love it. Okay, so which leads me to the question that I've been asking everyone that's the same. And you can, if you need me to give you more about this question, please let me know. But the question is what happens when we refuse to play by the rules? And so in this case, it would be like, what happens when we refuse to play by these sort of like sexual rules that we've been accustomed to, especially if we've grown up, in the United States?
Absolute freedom to be compassionate with yourself, which is number one. So as you're working through any shame, even just the cultural shame, like if you had no story, if you had nothing that had ever happened to you that was hard around your sexuality, if you came and you blossomed into this world with an intact sexual essence feeling, even just living in our world, there's going to be things that are going to be on you. So I feel that this freedom that you have, this compassion that you have with any of these shames, with any of these stories or woundings or things that are being put on you, or even just being a human in this world at this time, you can get this incredible freedom if you are doing this. I think it's the most freedom that I've had, to have compassion with myself. And the sexual energy allows a lot of compassion. It just feels like a lot to unpack at first. And we're at a moment in time when it's time to unpack it. And we're unpacking not just ours, but our lines, our ancestors.
Exactly. So that collective piece. Which is always helpful to remember when big fears come up, is that we're moving energy for the collective. So sometimes it's like, like you said, that you call in protection, or things come up and they're too rich. Just for me, it's like helpful to be like, okay, some of this is the collective, and like actually me being like embodied in my pleasure is a healing for the collective too. So it works both ways. Do you have anything coming up? I know that you're a new mama, so that's going to be huge. And also, please go and check out her products. There's a few of them that I use on the regular, the breast massage oil, and the other, I forget what it's called right now.
The Cosmic Egg?
Yes, the Cosmic Egg, which is amazing. And I was just looking, I was like, I want everything. It's like what they're named and what's in them is, you just create beautiful sexual alchemy. So tell people where they can find you, or if you have anything fun coming up, or if you want to tell us any fun, I don't know. I know that your delivery was, I don't even know what the word to use. Just like if that was what happened, but that you're healing from that. So whatever you want to share, just kind of as a wrap up.
I will. I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll share it all. I have lots of things coming up, but I'm also healing from my pubic bone opened, and it became separated during the birth of my son, who was quite large. And he's beautiful, 11 pounds, 12 ounces, but it was big, and his shoulder got stuck and during my home birth. So I've been on bed rest for around 6 weeks and slowly moving. And that's a whole other trip. I often will teach about the sexual self as a mother. And I feel like having my root basically open, and then the practices that I've been doing to really feel into that, the way that this is kind of coinciding with being a new mother. It's really beautiful, and I'm sure it will inform my work later when I have a little bit more space around it to integrate it. Right now it feels just like really big, like healing, another healing spiral, and I feel like I'm like, oh wow, another thing with my pussy, like I'm meant to have like all the things with my pussy so that I can do pussy work. Got it. But yeah, so I'm doing that, and so I'm not teaching as many classes as I usually am, but I do teach classes in person in Minneapolis, and I'm recording with my friend for online classes within a year. So that'll be up on my website within a year. I just have a lot of people who are excited about some of my classes in particular, and I'd love to be able to share them in an online format. But I do teach classes in Minneapolis, and then I do in-person coaching and online coaching and private work, specifically bringing witchcraft and my lineage of Italian and French witchcraft into these kind of ritual practices that I'm offering people, and then offering them space to reclaim their lineages through their own body. And just really working in that way. It feels really good. So that's kind of my personal one-on-one work. I also have an incredible herbal sexual self-care business. And yes, these products that you're speaking of are like my heart. I created them all after the birth of my first baby to keep connecting in with my pussy, to feel the magic. I feel like pushing my first baby out was one of the most orgasmic experiences I've ever had. Although, like, in terms of like orgasmic birth, I didn't have an orgasm when I pushed him out. But having your vagina be that large, and then that expulsion of your baby is such a relief. It feels so amazing. It can only be described as like the biggest orgasm that I've ever had. Wow. And so after that, I felt so also that I could weave my story together. So I had this vaginal numbness. I had this seeking with my pussy for people to kind of, to give my power away, to kind of like, will you please fuck me open? Will you please fuck me back to reality? You know, I've had trauma in my past, and then I had, you know, these awesome experiences of like sexual healing. And then I have this nourishment inside of me of like feeling like I, from a young age, looked at people and like could see that all they really needed was to like kiss or like be touched. Or, you know, just really have their sexual freedom. Like I often wanted to give that to men and women. Like I wanted to have sex with them in a healing way. Maybe in another lifetime I would have been a healer in that way.
I love it. I thought a lot about that. I love it.
Yeah, so I feel that now I've created these products so people can do that with themselves. And also from my experiences of plants really talking to me when I felt no one loved me. So when I was on Hawaii especially, I just felt no one's going to understand that I can't feel my womb, that I can't feel my vagina. No one, I can't say this to anybody. It felt that my ancestors, also the ones that I have now connected with and released, were like, you don't get to have your sexual freedom. And they're like chaining me closed. And I shut down my pussy, I shut down my throat. And so for me, the plants showed up for me then and were like, no, we love you. You are of this earth. You are so gorgeous. And so after having my baby, being back on the mainland, I think the plants showed up for me again and were like, make these products, make these things for women to just use and connect in, because the plants are a tool. The plants are there to remind you, like, you are a sexual being. The earth is sexual. We're all sexual. We have this sensuality. We're all connected. And so these products, the egg in particular, you can put in and let melt. It's my best-selling product. Very nourishing for the vaginal tissues, although I believe that the vagina is perfect and whole and self-cleaning. It can also really bring senses of pleasure, remind you of the way pleasure feels. It can be great with a crystal wand practice or a wood wand practice. And then I do breast massage daily. That's my breast massage oil, penis massage oil. I have more of an ecstatic lube that is another really great selling product with CBD in it and some gorgeous kava. And if you look, everything's infused 60 to 90 days over the cycles of the moon, and some witchy stuff. But I'm also also a mom, and so I'm making these things for people to just engage with whenever they can. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I am often being like, you can just touch yourself for a few minutes a day. I also have the Ayurvedic background, so they're really believing that that this fat is love, and this oil is just so grounding and nourishing, and that's their tradition. And so I was invited into that tradition when I lived in California for a bit, and super grateful. And I feel I've also kind of adopted that in my business, that I love to oil myself, and so self-oiling, self-massage is a way that I can bring all these things together. All the plants talking, the plants really being like, I'll show up for you, I'll support you today. If you can't support yourself, the oils being like, we love you, we're rich, we're fatty, we're going to ground your nourishment, ground your nervous system. And then, your an ability to take a second to do maybe a pussy breathing or some sort of place to connect in. So I'm hoping for an opening with these tools. And I've had an incredible few months in business, and I'm always, I'm just wanting more expansion in that place. I love my products. So thanks for
Yeah, please go and check out what she has to offer. And thank you so much for being so willing to go through that spiral of death and rebirth. I know we're both Scorpio signs, but really that's what the universe is asking of all of us. It's like, can we let go of our old story in order to receive more and see more and be in touch with more pleasure? So just thank you for sharing. You're such a beautiful soul. And thanks for everyone who watched. This is actually my last interview, so thank you.